Good afternoon, I'm Hagen Rogers with Watermark Advisors, and today I want to present the first of 3 videos on what I call fumbles and landmines that occur when sellers are trying to exit ownership in their business. Winston Churchill once said, "Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." I will also add a quote that I've heard that history doesn't repeat, it actually rhymes. And unfortunately, I've heard and seen so many experiences in selling companies where the same mistakes get made over and over. I've begun to label them fumbles and landmines. I'll explain that in just a minute. Remorse happens when you have a fumble or landmine, and I'm going to share just a few. One is that business owners may not realize that if they do try to sell their business, 24% of the time they don't actually close on that transaction. So that odds are probably surprising for business owners to realize. And then if they do close, the structuring of the deal can create other types of remorse, such as contingency earnout payments that may not ever materialize or materialize to where the seller was expecting. Many others to talk about, but remorse comes from poorly structuring deals. It's not all bad news. There are many, countless examples of great outcomes from selling your company, from selling with a high multiple to high cash consideration, 100% cash at close. The escrow and holdback are fully captured by the seller. Your clients and your people are well taken care of, and the business ends up thriving under new ownership. We want that 100% of the time, but unfortunately that's not the case. Remorse stems from problems and mistakes made in the preparation phase. Business owners are experts in their industry, in their businesses, and yet when you sell a company, that business owner actually has to cross this bridge, a bridge they've probably never even seen before, much less walked across, and they have to cross it in 3 phases: preparation, transaction, and integration. And the mistakes, more than not, the mistakes are made in what we call the preparation phase. Foundational to a successful sell is that your business is quote unquote an athlete. How do you know if it's an athlete? We say there are 8 measures: strategy, market positioning, people, processes, financial results, culture, innovations, momentum. 8 different hurdles. Is your business an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 on all of these? If they're not, that's where remorse comes in to play, that you went ahead and sold it when it may have been a high school athlete, not a college athlete, or a high school athlete and not a professional athlete, and that creates remorse. It also stems from what happens after you sell, the integration phase, which is often overlooked and underemphasized by the professionals that help you sell your company. Those problems show up in the relationship you have to the buyer, the transition of the business in integration steps and processes, and capturing contingency payments. This is where a lot of pain shows up. Everyone cheers at the closing table and is excited that we've reached that great milestone, but the remorse, not so much here, it shows up over here or when you step off the bridge. So what is a fumble? A fumble is a term I use for a step of the process, most often in the preparation phase, that you were counseled on by an advisor, but for whatever reason you chose not to resource it, not to go through the steps of that. An example is evaluation. If you decide to sell your business, and most likely an advisor is going to tell you to get a valuation, a current valuation, and you say, I've heard multiples or this or X times EBITDA, this multiple of EBITDA, I'm not going to go through that time, it's going to take 2 months or it costs too much. And yet that fumble, because you choose not to undertake an important step, causes pain in that you may end up leaving lots of money on the table, or you can't negotiate a deal because you have a preconceived notion that the company's worth much more than it actually is. What is a landmine? A landmine is different. It's more painful. it's a step that you didn't ignore, you just didn't even realize you needed to do it. For example, what we see often happening in due diligence in the transaction phase, buyer undergoes a quality of earnings report, which is a financial due diligence step, and analyzing all of your financial statements, the processes you go through, and often, more often than we would like to see, there are problems in the financials. Had you simulated that buyer's financial due diligence early in the preparation phase, you wouldn't have those problems in real due diligence when it matters, when you're days from closing and you lose leverage as a result. That is a landmine. It's painful, it hurts, it can cost you the deal or cost you some major concession. So don't have time to go through all of the fumbles and landmines today. I want to give you just one. Okay? Landmine number one is what I say the negotiated sell versus auction process. Most businesses that sell, they get great counsel from different professionals like CPAs, M&A advisors, legal advisors, but the problem shows up in that when an unsolicited approach, a company approaches a business owner about buying their company, the seller, the business owner is flattered. They decide to step all the way into the bridge, all the way to a letter of intent. They ignore many of the preparation steps, and they hire an attorney and they want to negotiate that LOI. What's happened is they've lost leverage most of the time in building a competitive process whereby if the deal terms fall apart with that one buyer, they can turn to other buyers, or because of that competitive process, they get to the best buyer through a methodical series of steps. Yes, it takes time and effort, but it's all worth it at the end. You typically get to a better outcome. Not 100% of the time. Sometimes it's okay to have a negotiated sell, but this is a landmine that we see far too often, and it's very painful. More landmines and fumbles to come in the next two videos. I hope you enjoyed and learned some from what I shared today, and we'll see you next time.